I was never the strongest, never the tallest, just a shepherd, the youngest of my brothers. While they trained for battle, I was in the fields, watching over my father's sheep. It was a quiet life, but not without danger. I remember the night I faced my first lion. The moon was high, the flock resting, when I heard the rustling in the brush. Then came the growl. My heart pounded as I saw the lion creeping toward the sheep. I had no sword, no armor, just my sling and my faith in the Lord. I reached for a stone, placed it in my sling, and let it fly. The stone struck true, but the beast still came forward. So I ran toward it, seized it by the mane, and struck it down with my own hands. Another time, it was a bear. And each time, the Lord delivered me. I spent my days in the fields, playing my harp, singing to the Lord, feeling His presence as the wind moved through the grass. Out there under the open sky, I knew I was never alone. Then, one day, everything changed. I was tending the sheep when a messenger called me home. "David, come quickly, the prophet Samuel is here." When I arrived, I saw my father and brothers standing before him. He had looked at each of my brothers, strong warriors, but he shook his head. Then his eyes turned to me. I'll never forget what happened next. He took a horn of oil, poured it over my head, and said the Lord had chosen me to be king. Me, a shepherd boy. I didn't understand it, but something inside me changed. The Spirit of the Lord came upon me from that day forward. Yet I didn't go to a palace. I went back to my sheep. I waited, trusted, until the day I was sent to the battlefield. My father sent me to take food to my brothers, who were fighting in Saul's army. When I arrived, the air was thick with fear. The men whispered about Goliath, a giant, a warrior of the Philistines. Every day for 40 days, he stepped into the valley, mocking our people, mocking our God, and no one dared to face him. I couldn't believe it. "Why are you letting this Philistine defy the armies of the living God?" I asked. My oldest brother, Eliab, scowled at me. "Go back to your sheep, David. You don't belong here." But I wouldn't stay silent. I told the men, "If no one will fight him, I will." Word reached King Saul, and he sent for me. When I stood before him, he looked at me and shook his head. "You're just a boy. Goliath has been a warrior since his youth." But I told him, "I have killed lions and bears to protect my father's sheep, and the same God who delivered me then will deliver me now." Saul hesitated, then nodded. "Go, and may the Lord be with you." He offered me his armor, but when I put it on, I could barely move. I wasn't a soldier. I was a shepherd. I took it off, picked up my sling, and walked to the brook. There I chose 5 smooth stones. Then I stepped into the valley. Goliath stood waiting, towering over me, his armor gleaming in the sun. He laughed. "Am I a dog, that you come at me with sticks?" I stood firm. "You come against me with sword and spear, but I come in the name of the Lord Almighty." I reached into my pouch, pulled out a stone, placed it in my sling, and swung it over my head. The moment felt frozen in time. Then I released it. The stone flew through the air and struck Goliath in the forehead. His laughter stopped, his eyes widened, and then he fell. Silence filled the valley. Then, a roar. The Philistines turned and ran. Israel had won. But the victory was not mine. It was the Lord's. That day, everything changed. But my journey was only beginning.